Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your legendary host, Daryl Wingfield, and today we got a special one for you guys. This brings us to episode 70, and this is definitely going to be talking about the starting point for most people when it comes to finding your purpose and creating a goal and going for that goal, and how dark that place actually can be, that starting point, and why most people never really get past that starting point to begin with, and how you can get out that starting point and what you have to do to maintain it going forward. Um it's going to be very, very spiritually based from honestly my perspective, and how I got out of those places from that starting point and managing to keep going. So I want you guys to follow me here because I'm gonna take you on a journey inward instead of outward, because for the most part that's where everything start, you know, and it makes its way outward. So we're gonna pop this off like this, right? A lot of y'all are in the dark with in y'all lives right now and everything that's going on. And there's a term for that. I believe it's called the dark night of the soul. And for a lot of people, once they reach that point, they're disoriented in their life. That's when you completely lose your meaning. You lost your way. You don't have a direction of going anymore, you know? And for a lot of people, this commonly hit during their midlife crisis when I'm fairly young. I hope I didn't reach my midlife crisis yet. That would be a huge problem. But ultimately, I've came to that point many, many times, and it made me reinvent myself. And I talk about, for example, how the pandemic was one of those times that made me reinvent myself, and it forced me to go inward. I talk about it all the time. You can check out the previous podcast episodes if you want to hear more information, or know a little bit more about me and my personal journey. But ultimately, like I said, when you reach this low point, you lose meaning in life. You lose meaning in your life, most importantly, you know. And oftentimes, people just you have to go on living, but it begins to turn into suffering in a way, and you're trying to make light out the situation, but you simply don't know how. And oftentimes, this is caused by a separation, whether it be relationships, family. This separation can also mean death as well. Somebody transitioning, going into the other side unexpectedly. And for a decent amount of us, that's going to definitely send you to a dark place, like within yourself, when you really start to question existence as a whole. You know, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What is the reason for me being here? And when you get to that point, it's not a bad thing. Certain forms of depression is actually good. Sounds crazy, but it is. And it can be a tool used to lead you closer to your own soul, because a lot of us are missing that relationship with our soul, missing that relationship with our spirit. And all the way up until this point, for me personally, that's ultimately what guided me. I don't know about you guys' religious backgrounds and everything, but I have a Christian faith basis. When I say I'm religious, I'm not, but I do wholeheartedly believe in God. And a lot of things and situations that I got into, it just simply didn't make any sense. I got robbed by some high school kids when I was 19, and one of these kids had a gun put to the back of my head. A lot of situations, this can go wrong. There could have been a mistake made while this dude is searching the back seat of the car, and his finger just slips, and he just shoots me in the back of the head, put my brain all over the dashboard. You know, these are moments that I think about. There was a situation that I talked about, I believe, last year when I was driving on the highway and I didn't have any brakes on my car at all. So I could stomp on the brake, but my car wasn't going to stop. And I'm on the highway where everybody's doing 65 plus. And I did it just to go play basketball. Not the smartest decision in the world, and one that could have cost me my life. And during this, I was driving by a funeral service line while this is going on, and I'm talking on the phone with my friends at it, and I'm not wearing my seatbelt. And this was the sound that I was making while I was driving. I kid you not, people. Oh my God. That was hella anxiety. I didn't know how I was going to stop my car. But moments like that, I totaled my car after that incident, obviously. But not having a car sent me in a pretty dark spot. And I talked about it on this podcast. So every single thing, pretty much, well, not the first incident, because I didn't even think that I have a podcast. I didn't think that I have a brain. I never thought that, you know what I mean? I even played basketball overseas. It was just an idea, But going back to when I was 19 and that incident happened, fast forward, I want to say a year and a half later, 2 years later, I ended up dropping out of college. I didn't see no point in even being there, to be quite honest. And my lifestyle was predicated to having fun, legit. I was trying to get trashed and feel good every single chance that I got. And school was getting in the way of that, so fuck school. That's how I was thinking, And 2 weeks later, after I dropped out, I ended up getting arrested by the police. There was a warrant for my arrest, and I caught a possession charge. So life was definitely on an up and up. Don't it sound like it? It's on an up and up. The goal was to play college basketball. Guess what didn't happen? I did not play, but that all happened, like I said, in a matter of, I would want to say like a month, 2 months. And the lifestyle that I was living, it wasn't new to me, but I was doing the most. I'm not even going to lie. I definitely had criminal intent without going into detail all too crazy. But when it was all said and done and it finally hit me, and this was in January. I got arrested in November and everything. I'm going back and forth to court, and then I think January come around, and I was playing basketball with a friend of ours, and he goes into the hallway, soon to never return. He was 20 at the time, and he died and he collapsed in the hallway. Turns out he had like a heart problem. But this is all going on around like in the same time. And I noticed something. I had this dream of playing basketball. And I really looked around at my life. And I was not nowhere where I wanted to be. I didn't even plan to be on this trajectory. And I found myself for the first time in a long time. I completely removed myself from my friends, my loved ones, and I cut my hair like damn near bald. And I would sit in my room, no TV, no music, nothing. And I would go into deep, deep contemplation, really deep contemplation. Um, Trying to figure out what my next move was going to be and if it was going to be possible for me to pull it off. And the mission was for me to go overseas and play basketball. Um, During that process, it was it was still dark and daunting. I had to go back and forth to court. I ended up getting put on probation for like a year. Um, and now I'm embarking on something that's bigger than any dream that I accepted of myself, especially in regards to basketball. In high school, it was to go to the NBA, but after I graduated, I realized that that wasn't going to happen. I had to become realistic in a way, you know. And then I got unrealistic yet again. Um, once I once I decided that I wanted to play basketball overseas, and when you get put in these dark places, right? Don't put your spirit, your mind in the outside things. Don't put it in objects. Don't put it in people because it's short lived. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people ideas and the way that they live is stale and high key it promotes death. To be quite honest, I don't really like, I guess, getting into this too much because this kind of stuff really goes over people's heads in a way. But if you think about everything that's going on out here right now, things are split into two. You're either on one side or the other. One side is always trying to completely take the other side out. They ain't trying to hear what the other side is talking about. And there's a concept of a quarter that I find myself keep mentioning as of late that you got heads and tails, but this quarter is still worth 25 cents, no matter which side that it's on, you know? And in order for something to be whole, you need to know the dynamics of both extremes. In order for it to be a middle way, there has to be a up and down. In order for it to be a middle way, there has to be a left and a right. But in regards to your soul, your spirit, and your journey, you don't want to get caught up, left, right, or down. And it's extremely easy to get caught in that. But you feel that you're off balance and something isn't right. Something's off. You know? And it is literally your soul's responsibility to get your body right back on track. And oftentimes your soul deep down know what your mission is, who you are, why you were set out to do whatever it is you came here to do. But you're so removed from your own self that you can't even speak your own language. It took me a while for me to speak my own language. And what do I mean by that? Getting comfortable with the thoughts, the feelings, sensations, and intuitive nature that I have, that we all have, you know, and understand that it's trying to communicate a bigger picture to us, these four sensations, you know, and we get caught up in one of the four. We really get caught up in our thoughts, and then we tend to get in our own way. We get caught up in our feelings, and it oftentimes gets us to do something that we shouldn't have done in the first place. We get caught in sensation, you know, what feels good, what don't feel good. And we also get caught in our intuition, them gut feelings. Oftentimes it's the counterintuitive nature of not listening to it. And that's what we as a whole got really, really good at, not listening to ourselves. Because everything outside of us is telling us that we're wrong. But this is how you get here. This is how you get to that peace of mind. This is how you get to your purpose that's waiting for you. It's not a matter of finding it. It's a discovery. And to me, those are like, it's similar, but they're two different things. You know what I mean? Creating your purpose, you don't have to do that. You just have to simply discover what's already there, what's lying dormant, you know? And going back to that middle way, we lean in on one side of ourselves all the time that it oftentimes presents a shadow. Going back to the dark night of the soul, that's when the shadow presents itself to you. That's when it tries to consume you. You know, it's the thing that you let simmer under the surface, you know? When you felt some type of way and you acted otherwise, when you thought some type of way and you acted otherwise, or you're not moving on one accord with yourself, things you find yourself in trouble, some serious trouble, you know? And often you find yourself lost without a real way of getting out of it, in a sense. So, for you to get out this little hump that you in, I tell you, you're about to hear some things that you probably don't want to hear. It's going to take you being real quiet and really still to figure this out. And whatever is passing through, you just simply got to let it pass through and be aware of it, in a sense. And I learned that from Greece, practicing with Greece and doing the meditation practices with Greece. And it's going on, crazy enough, 3 years of doing these meditation practices, but through it, it's provided me a lot of like profound insights that I have myself on, not only that, the world around me, you know. And on this podcast, I also talked about what made me start doing those practices with her to begin with. And it felt as though it was so much going on around me and there was no way for me to slow down. You know, everything seemed like it was just going to keep speeding up. And it felt like I was losing control on the situation that I had with Purpose Served, with basketball, with my family, the relationships that I had with people. It felt like it started slipping. And oftentimes when I get like that, it's easy for me to cut all of that off and focus on whatever it is that I need to focus on. And before I started Purpose Served, it was strictly basketball, you know? And then I realized that I have to maintain both. You know, I can't neglect one and just focus on the other, because the other one is going to present itself yet again when I least expected it. And over time, I guess I developed a skill to do this, a skill to just, you know, go into a real, real deep silence and meditative state. No, high key, no matter what, you know, and high key, I look forward to this a lot, that sense of solitude. But that's hard for a lot of you guys to get into. A lot of you guys get really, really uncomfortable, you know, sitting still with your phones off, shutting down, removing yourself from the world. And you really, really, really need to do that, you know, because you're not the world. You're a part of it, you know, and simply start. This is how, what helped me with Grace. We started with simply breathing. This is like, I guess, the first starting point that I give to most people is just start off with just simply breathing and being aware of that you're breathing. That's how simple a lot of this stuff is. It's not even that complicated, but you got to continuously do these things and let whatever come up come up. Don't try to fight it. Embrace it, you know, because it's revealing a deep inner truth to you about yourself. That's real, you know. It may not seem like it, but you just still got to uncover that. And then over time, what you're going to have to do is take these things, you know, and integrate it somehow, some way into your lifestyle. You know, some of us got goals that we're looking to achieve, but we never even start. We never even start. You know what I mean? We we have these ideas. We have all and get discouraged because of the thoughts, because of the feelings. I don't know if I can get this done. I don't have the resources. I don't have this. I don't have that. I always say, due to the fact that we come from the divine source, we already have every single thing we need as is. Life is always unfolding right before our eyes. Death is death. Once it's over, it's over. But due to the fact that we constantly get to experience this forever unfolding thing, in a sense, that means that we are that. And we got the power to change things on a crazy scale. Look at all the great people in history that done it, you know? And the 6 focuses for me and purpose served is through these 6 forms, which I mentioned in the past: art, fitness, education, wellness, community, environment, and yeah, those are the 6. And within those 6 forms is activities that you can use to pull you from whatever dark place that you're in. But you have to first understand that you're in that dark place. And then after that, you gotta sit in it for a little bit. And see what comes to you. And then work past it. A lot of people try to avoid a lot of things, man, by taking the shortcut. But it always turns out to be the long way. You're going to inevitably always take the long way from trying to take the shortcut. And the shortcut is always going to be the long way. Do things right the first time. You know? That's coming from a person that tried to take every shortcut imaginable, you know? But I came to a point where a lot of people need help with the problems that I once suffered from, you know? And for me playing basketball, I realized like a lot of these problems, man, especially for me personally not hitting goals, relying on other people, relying on ages, relying on coaches, relying on players instead of, you know, ultimately relying on myself, relying on my own ability to get things done and understanding that I had that ability to get it done. A lot of y'all are super lazy, bruh. A lot of y'all don't want to put in that work, but y'all want things. Y'all want things to be handed to y'all. And I'm seeing that this younger generation, they're like OD with it. They ain't trying to put in no work. And I tell you guys that certain times when I'm playing basketball, especially when I'm training, I had these kids come up to me all the time. You know what I mean? And they had similar backgrounds that I had, getting cut from their basketball team at school, middle school, high school, or whatever, you know? And I tell them the essentials of what they need to do in order to get past that hump. And it's fairly simple, and it involves a lot of consistency. But it also involves you being really, really quiet and observant, you know? So for y'all that's struggling right now, get as quiet as you possibly can and observe what simply comes about. And you will be surprised. You're going to be startled a little bit, but just sit there and ride it out. And the more you keep doing this, the easier and easier that it gets, you know? And eventually going forward, like I said, everything is still in the works of setting up, with these seminars and workshops, and also the planners as well, to help you practically engage in your own day, help you be mindful about your mood and about what you're going on, if you're completing certain things, if you're not completing certain things. Um, and also having a support group, an accountability group, to make sure that you're living out your purpose, you know, and you out there achieving your goals. Um, that's not the most, I want to say, important thing, going out and achieving goals, making sure you're getting these accomplishments. Nah, if you're doing it for that reason, you're going to get sent right back to the beginning of what I said, to that dark night of the soul, till you get it right. This is a transition. We are living, we're living in an existence that's like a bridge, yo. We Events went down on a great magnitude that clashed together for you to come through at a certain point and be born on a certain day to come through existence. It could be compressed in a woman's stomach. You know what I'm saying? Feedled up, your soul, downloading every single thing that you need in order to get you across this whole entire thing. And a lot of us, as soon as we come out the womb, we get disconnected from that divinity and that source that has all answers to get us from here to the end point, you know? And that's why I say this is like a transition. We only are able to see a limited amount of things due to the fact of what and who we are. We're human beings living on planet Earth, bro. Our brain is only able to perceive so much. Our eyes is able to only perceive so much. Our mouth is only able to say certain things, communicate certain things that's in our field of reference, that's in our realm of perspective. If it's not, it's lost. But that don't mean that this stuff isn't going on. Reality isn't happening, you know. So be patient with yourselves. Get really, really quiet. Return to the silence, and you're going to find your soul. You're going to find your spirit, and build a strong, strong relationship with it, because that's going to carry you through this moment in time, and to the point where you transition up out of here. You know, and like I said, this is a limited thing, man. We're living in a certain spirit of time. We're living in the information age. You know what I mean? 200-300 years ago in the 1800s, that was the scientific age. You know, things is always unfolding. Things is always going forward. You know, and be a part of that dance, man. That helps life unfold instead of wither up and die away. Don't let your soul wither up and die away, because it's trying not to. It's trying to get you to recognize it. And at certain times, it's going to send you to a really, really dark place. Hoping, hoping that you got no choice but to respond to it, to listen to it, to act on it. Because it's coming from a spark of divinity that's way bigger than you, me, and every living being ever in existence. That's what it really truly means to be whole, you know? And all in all, that brings us to the end of this podcast episode. Boy, girl. It's like, nah, I'm gassed. But yeah, man, this is a this ain't an in your face one. This is a chill one. A lot of y'all need to slow y'all lives down. Be patient. See what comes to y'all. Build a deep relationship with yourself. And by doing that, you're gonna build a deep relationship automatically with the world around you. Guaranteed. But I love every last one of y'all for tuning in. all the time. Serve your purpose. Take action towards your goals, people. That's what I mean by serving your purpose. Take action towards your goal. And I'm out. Deuces.